I married a woman who was paralyzed. When my friends and family found out, they all thought I'd lost my mind. But I married her anyway, without a second's hesitation. I took care of her for 5 full years. 5 years of cleaning her, changing her, dressing her. Today, 5 years later, she sat up in bed. My joyful gaze met a pair of eyes as cold and sharp as a razor's edge, and a voice that chilled me to the bone pierced the air. "Don't touch me with your filthy hands." The first forsythia of the year bloomed, marking the 5th spring. Catherine Pierce's eyelashes fluttered in the morning light, like a butterfly struggling free from its chrysalis. And just like that butterfly, Catherine herself seemed reborn, sitting up in the bed she had occupied for 5 long years. Overwhelmed with joy, I lunged forward to embrace my wife. But Catherine didn't just shrug me off, she hissed those words at me. "Don't touch me with your filthy hands." Her voice was the screech of a scalpel against a metal tray. Her violent movement sent the stack of sketchbooks on the nightstand tumbling to the floor. 1,825 sketches, each one a portrait of her beautiful face. One for every day we had been together. My hands flew out, snatching a single page from the air. I remember this one. It was day 1,534 of caring for the paralyzed Catherine Pierce. She'd been lying in bed when her finger suddenly twitched. I had captured the subtle arch of her brow as she frowned in her sleep. Catherine may have been paralyzed, but it was only from the neck down. She had no sensation in her body, but she could move her head slightly, even manage a few simple, broken syllables. She could think. She could see me, hear me, and feel my presence. I knew she was aware of everything I had done for her over these 5 years. She had to be. I even remember the day I drew the 520th sketch. She had struggled, her voice strained, piecing together the few syllables she could manage. "I love you, husband." I'll admit, it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. But now, I refused to believe she could forget these 1,825 days, forget every little thing that had passed between us. Swallowing my confusion, I knelt and began carefully gathering the scattered drawings. Each one was a piece of my life, a Catherine I had rendered with my own hands. "Catherine," I said, my voice gentle, "I know you've just gotten your movement back. A lot has happened in 5 years. This sudden change, it must be a lot to take in." "It's okay," I continued. "I'll call the doctor right away, have him come to the house and give you." Before I could finish, her icy voice cut through me again. "Stop dreaming, Cole. Did you really think I wanted to be your wife?" she sneered. "Have you already forgotten why I married you 5 years ago?" My hands froze. A sharp, searing pain shot through my chest, and my knuckles turned white, wrinkling the 365th sketch I was holding. Her words unlocked a door to a memory I had buried deep inside. Of course, for 5 years, I cleaned up her waist, bathed her body, and dressed her in fresh clothes, all to preserve her like some proud, sleeping princess, beautiful in her solitude. My mind was so full of the last 1,825 days that I had forgotten how it all began. Our marriage had never been about love. It had been about a piece of paper, a contract. In the moment I was lost in thought, a sound came from behind me. I realized with a jolt that Catherine, who had supposedly just woken from 5 years of paralysis, had gotten out of bed and was walking. That's right. If she had truly been bedridden for 5 years, even with me exercising her legs daily, how could there be no muscle atrophy? But the Catherine standing now moved with an easy grace. There was nothing about her that suggested she was just recovering from paralysis. In that instant, I froze. And in that instant, I finally understood what that marriage contract had really meant. But if that was the case, why did you ever say you loved me? Catherine, who I had just cleaned up from a night before, was completely naked from the waist down. She didn't even try to cover herself from my gaze. Instead, she walked to the closet with a casual familiarity, as if it were something she did every day. She pulled out an outfit and slipped it on. Standing there, Catherine looked perfect like an angel. But the face that should have been soft and beautiful was covered in a thick layer of frost. She looked at me, still frozen in place, and spoke with cold disdain. "Have you had your fill of looking?" Her question left me speechless. She didn't care. "For 5 years, you've looked and you've touched. You should be grateful," she said dismissively. "You should think about your place. Who do you think you are? You're not worthy. From now on, if you ever dare to look at me like that again, I swear I'll gouge out your eyes." My place. I'm your husband. I took 2 steps forward, my voice trembling with disbelief. "You call me your husband, with your own mouth. Have you forgotten?" I wanted to grab her shoulders, to shake her back to reality. But my outstretched hands froze in midair under her icy stare. A smirk played on Catherine's lips. She glanced at me as if I were a clown. You're so naive, she scoffed. You actually believe that? Huh. With that one cold laugh, she turned and walked away. The room where Catherine and I had spent 5 years together, suddenly felt vast and empty. I was left standing alone, staring at the sketches scattered across the floor, completely lost. A few of them had footprints on them now, Catherine's footprints. I remembered one. Day 625. I had held this very drawing up for her to see. She had struggled with the syllables, but her meaning was clear. Us. Band. Ma. Zing. And another one. Day 1. 348. She had looked at that sketch and managed her longest sentence ever. Husband. When. I'm. Bet. Tur. I'll. Give. You. B.A. Bye. It took her a full 5 minutes to get those few words out, sweat beading on her forehead. But I remember we both smiled so brightly that day. Now, that same drawing was crumpled and torn under her heel. A wave of pain, so intense it felt physical, washed over me. It was only then that it truly sank in. The Catherine before me was not the woman who lay helpless in bed, who struggled to ask for a hug. The pain in my chest was overwhelming, and my vision went black. When I woke up, I was on the living room sofa. Someone had moved me. Lying on the end table beside me was a gold-leafed envelope. As if in a trance, I picked it up. A single document slipped out, a divorce agreement. The section on asset division read, "The husband voluntarily relinquishes all claims to shared assets." Catherine's cold voice came from across the room. "Mr. Harrison, there are $5 million on that card. Consider it your nursing fee for the past 5 years." She had changed into a couture gown and was sitting across from me, one leg elegantly crossed over the other, a red-soled heel dangling provocatively from her foot. Behind her stood 2 well-built bodyguards. It was only then that I learned the truth. The paralyzed wife I had cared for 5 years was the daughter of the chairman of Pierce Industries. The realization hit me like a lightning strike, and I suddenly remembered the headlines from 5 years ago. The chairman of Pierce Industries was on his deathbed. His 2 sons and 3 daughters were tearing each other apart for control of the company. The eldest daughter had been in a car accident on her way home and had vanished without a trace. Just recently, another news story had broken. The chairman had made a miraculous recovery. Disgusted that his children's infighting had nearly ruined the company, he disinherited all of them in a fit of rage. And right at that moment, my wife, the paralyzed woman I'd cared for 5 years, also made a miraculous recovery. It was all a little too convenient, wasn't it? It finally dawned on me. I was nothing more than a pawn in Catherine's long game to secure her family's fortune. I had to hand it to her. It was a hell of a strategy. She was willing to do whatever it took. Just as Catherine had said to me today before leaving the room. You're so naive. With that understanding, a strange sense of clarity washed over me. The pain in my chest seemed to fade. I pushed myself up from the sofa, took the pen, and signed my name on the divorce agreement. I tossed the pen and the papers back to her. So, when are we finalizing this? Tomorrow. I was sure that Catherine, now the sole heir to Pierce Industries, couldn't wait to get rid of a burden like me. To my surprise, she said, "Not so fast. I haven't fully secured my inheritance yet. I'm going to need you to play the part of my husband for a little while longer. It wouldn't do for me to get a reputation for being disloyal," she added coolly. "It could interfere with my plans." Plans? I let out a bitter laugh. Of course. My 5 years of devotion were just another part of her cold, calculated plan. My heart felt as icy as her tone. I looked at her, any trace of warmth gone from my eyes, and spread my hands. "As you wish. But the moment you're ready, let me know. Set me free." "Set you free?" A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face at my detached tone. "After all," she said, her voice softening almost imperceptibly, "you did take care of me for 5 years. You're not nothing to me. Think of this as a transition period for both of us." "I'm not nothing to you?" The words sounded so absurd, I almost laughed out loud. I pointed to the papers on the table. "If that were true, why is this divorce agreement sitting here?" "You." Her composure cracked for a second, a flash of anger in her eyes, but she quickly reined it in. Her expression turned back into a mask of cool indifference. "It's for the best if you think that way. After all," she continued, her voice dripping with condescension, "who are you? And who am I? In my world, you were just someone I bought to take care of me. Hired help." She seemed to be trying to provoke me, but you can't break a heart that's already dead. Her words didn't stir a single ripple in my soul. I was a pawn, nothing more. I stayed in the house. Catherine, apparently consumed with securing her inheritance, was barely ever home. I thought the days would pass quietly until we finally went to sign the divorce papers. Then one day, I came home from grocery shopping and pushed open the door to find Catherine with another man. They were on the floor, on top of my 1,825 sketches, their clothes in disarray. They clearly hadn't expected me. Catherine, especially, scrambled to her feet in a panic. "What are you doing back so soon?" She looked exactly like a cheating wife caught by her husband. The man, however, calmly buttoned his shirt. "Darling," he said to Catherine, his voice smooth, "didn't you tell me you were already divorced from your husband?" His voice made my stomach turn, but he had a point. "Catherine, oh Catherine, we are divorced. Why are you so flustered?" Still, even though my heart was dead to her, and we were divorced in all but name, no man wants to be played for a fool. I seized the opportunity. "Let me go," I said to her, my voice flat. "I wish you two the best." "You." I saw a flicker of conflict in her eyes, but she shook her head firmly. "Absolutely not. Don't forget the contract between us." The contract? Thinking of that 5-year-old agreement, my fists clenched at my sides, but I was powerless. The next morning, I came out of my bedroom. Catherine was gone, but the man from yesterday was there. I instinctively turned to leave, but he called out to me. "Hey there, ex-hubby." That effeminate voice made my fists clench again. This was my first real conversation with Julian Vance, Catherine's new dalliance. I stared at him coldly as he rose from the sofa. Seeing him properly for the first time, I noted his delicate features. With a wig, he could easily pass for a beautiful woman. I couldn't fathom what Catherine saw in this androgynous creature. But then I noticed he was holding a thick stack of papers. My sketches of Catherine. I held out my hand. "Give me back my things." A mocking smile spread across Julian's face. "Ex-hubby, what are you talking about?" he purred. "You mean these? Or do you mean my dear Catherine?" He paused for effect. "Oh, I almost forgot. These and Catherine used to be yours. But now," he fanned the drawings out like a deck of cards. "They belong to me. What I want, I get. But you want them back." He chuckled. "Huh, dream on." Julian smirked at me. "Rip." He tore one of the sketches right down the middle. Day 1548, a drawing of Catherine's gentle smile. In that instant, my clenched fists couldn't be contained. Blood rushed to my head, my eyes turning red. "You're dead." I lunged. I don't remember much of what happened next. I just remember the searing pain in my knuckles and the way Julian's pretty boy face seemed to contort. I remember Catherine running out of her room in a silk nightgown, letting out a piercing scream. When I finally came to my senses, I was in a mediation room at a police station. Julian Vance, his face wrapped in thick gauze that hid his foxy features, was shrieking hysterically like a woman, demanding the police arrest me and throw me in jail. Through it all, I didn't say a word. Fearing things would escalate, the officers separated us, leading me into a small, quiet room. As I sat there, lost and numb, a warm paper cup appeared next to my hand, steam rising from the hot water inside. A pleasant voice spoke beside me. "Here, drink some water. Calm down." The sound of that voice sent a tremor through my body. It was like a golden key unlocking a memory I had sealed away for 5 years. I looked up, hardly daring to believe it. She was wearing a police uniform, a crisp cap shadowing her face. Though the uniform was formal and cut for utility, I could still see her graceful figure and a beautiful face that was nothing like Catherine's. She was smiling at me. I couldn't stop the name from escaping my lips, my throat tight. "Chloe." As I said her name, I saw her lips tremble slightly. Her bright eyes reddened almost instantly. But the next second, she turned and hurried out of the room. I instinctively started to stand up to follow her, but I froze, a bitter smile on my face as I sank back into my chair. "Chloe Davis, my good friend from 5 years ago. After I signed that marriage contract with the paralyzed Catherine Pierce, we never saw each other again. I thought I'd never get the chance. I never imagined our reunion would be like this." It wasn't long before Chloe returned. Her expression was composed again. She had news for me. Julian agreed to settle. "He's already left." I was surprised. His pretty boy face is all busted up, and he agreed to settle? Chloe chuckled at my comment. "You're still the same, always saying whatever's on your mind." Her expression turned a bit more serious. "Your wife. She has a lot of influence. She put a lot of pressure on Julian to drop it. But," Chloe added, "she was the one who cheated. It's the least she could do." After saying it, she quickly waved her hands. "Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject. I smiled and shook my head before she could finish. "It's fine. Actually, Catherine and I are already divorced." "Really?" For some reason, at my words, Chloe's eyes lit up with a sudden, brilliant joy, her voice jumping an octave. When I left the small room, Catherine and Julian were indeed gone. I thanked Chloe and was about to leave myself, but she told me her shift was ending and asked me to wait. I gladly agreed. That evening, Chloe and I had dinner together. Afterwards, we ended up in a late-night diner, sitting across from each other with Cokes, talking for hours and hours. I suddenly realized that the 5 years of my life that had been a blank void were suddenly coming back into focus, sharp and clear. Chloe and I used to do this all the time, hiding out in a place just like this, talking about everything and nothing, dreaming about the future. Everything had changed 5 years ago, with that one piece of paper. Thinking of the contract, a familiar pang of pain shot through my heart. Later, I don't know what time it was, I just knew the diner was empty and even the staff behind the counter were dozing off. Only then did Chloe and I say goodbye, exchanging numbers and re-adding the contact that had been dormant for 5 years. It was only then that I saw it. I had been in her contacts this whole time. I even saw the string of unsent messages on her phone, each with a little red exclamation point next to it. I used my key to open the front door. The apartment was pitch black. I didn't think much of it. Catherine wasn't home much these days anyway. And today, her poor little boy toy had gotten his face rearranged by my fist. She was probably taking care of her precious baby. But as I slipped off my shoes and stepped into the living room, click! A table lamp on the end table next to the sofa flickered on without warning. I saw Catherine reclining against the sofa cushions. She was wearing a silk nightgown, her two long, snow-white legs crossed. I knew what they felt like. After all, 4 or 5 years, I had been the one to care for every inch of her. But seeing her now, I felt nothing. My mind, instead, was filled with the image of Chloe's bright, innocent face. Catherine spoke, her voice still just as cold. "What are you smiling about?" Her question startled me. Right, what was I smiling about? From the moment I saw Chloe today, it felt like the smile hadn't left my face. 5 years. Not even when Catherine had mouthed the words, "I love you," had my smile felt this natural. But the real image in front of me was Catherine's indifferent face. A surge of irritation rose in me. "What I'm smiling about is none of your business," I said coldly. "You." My coldness seemed to catch her off guard. She stood up from the sofa and walked toward me. It was only then that I saw she'd been holding that thick stack of my drawings. On top was the very one Julian had torn, now painstakingly taped back together. I was a little surprised, but no matter how carefully you piece it together, a torn drawing is still broken. Catherine was in front of me now, her brow furrowed, her expression as condescending as the day she'd made me sign the divorce papers. "How dare you speak to me like that? Don't you forget your place." There was again, "Don't forget your place." But this time, I just laughed, a natural, liberated laugh. "My place," I said lightly, "has nothing to do with you, Miss Pierce." Catherine was clearly not expecting that answer. She froze. Seizing the moment, I moved past her, heading for my room. But she was quick, grabbing my arm. "I'm not finished talking to you." "But I'm finished talking to you." My voice was merciless. I shook my arm, easily breaking her grip. But as I did, Catherine's eyes widened, as if she'd seen a ghost. She lunged, grabbing a piece of my shirt and yanking it fiercely. Then she held it up to her face, examining it carefully. In her hand was a single, long strand of woman's hair. Seeing it, Catherine's body began to tremble violently. Her face went pale, and then she shouted at me, her voice shrill and theatrical, almost hysterical. "Cole, whose hair is this? Where were you so late? You were out cheating on me with some tramp, weren't you?" I looked at the hair. I knew it was her own. Chloe had short hair. Was Catherine losing her mind? Caught cheating herself. Now she was projecting her own filth onto me. Huh. I didn't bother explaining. Instead, I just smirked. "From where I'm standing, you're the one who looks more like a tramp." "You bastard." Catherine shrieked. "You dare cheat on me?" Slap. Her hand cracked across my face. Just the sight of her had been making my blood boil, and now my mind went white with rage. Slap. I didn't hold back. My hand whipped back, striking her across the face with full force. I was stronger than her. The blow sent her stumbling backward, collapsing onto the sofa. But I wasn't done. I strode forward, grabbed the collar of her silk nightgown, and snarled, "What right do you have to lecture me? Have you forgotten? We're divorced. I am not your husband anymore. And if we're talking about cheating, you were the one who started it. You tell me, who was it that brought some pretty boy home and did that right in front of my face? And now you have a nerve to lecture me." Slap. I hit her again hard. Catherine was a mess, her hair disheveled. Any semblance of the poised heiress of Pierce Industries gone. I don't know if it was because of the slaps or if my ferocity had simply terrified her, but she just stared at me blankly, her eyes vacant and lost. I didn't care. I let go of her and turned to leave. This time, I wasn't going to my room. I was leaving this place for good. Leaving this so-called home that had been my prison for 5 years. Just as I reached the front door, I heard frantic footsteps behind me. Then, a small figure wrapped her arms around me tightly from behind. I heard Catherine's voice, hoarse and choked with tears. Cole, don't go. Please don't go. Husband, don't leave me. I love you, Cole. I really, really love you. Her words stopped me in my tracks. For a split second, an image flashed in my mind. The Catherine from the past, motionless in bed, struggling to force out those 3 precious words. My hesitation must have given her a sliver of hope. She quickly moved around to face me, gripping my arms tightly, her tear-filled eyes looking at me with desperation. Husband, listen to me. Julian and I are nothing. Really, we're nothing. In my eyes, he's just a substitute for you. It's just that right now, I need to secure the inheritance at Pierce Industries. I need the help of Julian's family. I have to use his family's resources. Husband, listen, as soon as I secure the company, I'll kick him to the curb. We can remarry immediately. We can go back to how things were, okay? Husband, believe me, even when I was with him, it was your face I was picturing in my mind. Her voice was thick with tears, a torrent of desperate confession. I never imagined this was her reason. But as I stood there, looking at her, listening to her words, a wave of nausea washed over me. It was disgusting. Without another moment of hesitation, I shoved her away, sending her stumbling back into the living room. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked away again. Catherine seemed like she would chase me, but I threw a single word over my shoulder. Get lost. She froze. I didn't see the tears that finally spilled from her eyes. I just left that house without looking back. My mind was a blank, just like it had been when I was beating up Julian. The cold night air did nothing to clear my head. On pure instinct, I found myself knocking on a door. The person who opened it was Chloe, a bathrobe wrapped around her. Seeing me at her door, she immediately noticed my distraught state. Cole, what's wrong? Are you MMPH? Chloe's eyes went wide. I had silenced her with my lips. In that moment, I didn't even know why I was doing it. All I knew was that I was screwed. I had probably just destroyed the fragile friendship Chloe, and I had just rekindled. I felt her struggle against me, but it only lasted for a moment. When I woke up again, I was in Chloe's bed, her head resting softly on my shoulder. I was an idiot. I stared blankly at the ceiling, only one thought running through my head. What have I done? Chloe stirred, rubbing her sleepy eyes and letting out an adorable yawn. I felt a blush creep up my neck. I was embarrassed, ashamed to face her, to face what had happened last night. But then I heard her voice, calm and clear. Cole, you're sure you're divorced, right? I don't know why, but I felt an urgent need to explain. Yes, I'm divorced. We haven't gone to City Hall to finalize it yet, but I've already signed the agreement. And my answer? A bright smile lit up Chloe's face. Good. She leaned over and gave me a soft kiss on the corner of my mouth. Then she slipped out of bed without looking back. I'm going to make you breakfast. It's been 5 years, but I'm guessing your tastes haven't changed, right? I went back to the house I once shared with Catherine. But this time I had made up my mind. To hell with the contract. I was packing my bags, breaking free from Catherine's chains for good, and chasing my own freedom. My hand trembled slightly as I put the key in the lock. Was it because of what happened with Chloe last night? But I quickly steeled myself. I hadn't done anything wrong. Why should I be afraid? I opened the door and stepped inside. I was half expecting to be met with another one of Catherine's hysterical scenes, but the house was empty. I let out a small laugh. Of course, she had her inheritance to fight for, her relationship with Julian to maintain. I quickly packed my things. As I placed my key on the coffee table, I noticed the sketches scattered on the sofa. All 1,825 of them. They were marked with damp spots, as if someone had been looking through them, one by one, with tears in their eyes. But what did that have to do with me anymore? As I walked out the door with my suitcase in hand, a single thought echoed in my mind. The past was gone. A new life was beginning. That night, I got a call from Catherine. I hadn't blocked her number. We still had to finalize the divorce, after all. As soon as I answered, her sharp voice screeched through the phone. Cole, where's your suitcase? Where are your things? Where are you? You can't just move out without my permission. What gives you the right? I'm ordering you to come back right now. You're my husband, and I'm your wife. Come back. Do you hear me? Come back. Catherine, oh Catherine. Had you gotten so lost in the role you were playing? Did you forget? We were already divorced. I held the phone to my ear and glanced toward the kitchen, where Chloe was busy at the stove, an apron tied around her waist. I spoke into the phone, my voice calm. The inheritance, I asked simply, do you still want it? There was a second of silence on the other end. Cole, can you please stop being difficult? Her voice cut off. I had hung up the phone. After that, Catherine called me many more times. I didn't answer. She even used the resources of Pierce Industries to hire a private investigator to find out where I was living. She started ambushing me, sometimes ordering me to come back and be her husband with that same old arrogant attitude, other times clinging to me, pathetically begging for my forgiveness. I could clearly see that she had lost a lot of weight during this time. She looked haggard, and the confident smile was gone from her face. But I could also clearly see the hickeys on her collarbone. She just wanted to have her cake and eat it too. Finally, my unwavering resolve won out. We went to City Hall. As I walked out with the divorce certificate in my hand, Julian was, of course, there to meet Catherine. For some reason, he looked pretty worn out himself. I just smiled at them. Take care of yourselves. But that little punk, Julian, couldn't resist. He snatched the certificate from Catherine's hand and waved it in my face. See, ex-hubby? Didn't I tell you? What I want, I get. Before, that might have sent me into a rage. But now, I just glanced at Catherine, who was standing beside him with a grim expression, then turned back to Julian. You actually feel a sense of accomplishment for winning. That. I gestured vaguely at Catherine. You're really something else. You. It was Julian's turn to look like he was about to explode. But I just added lightly, by the way, I met a great plastic surgeon recently. If you're not happy with that new nose of yours, I can give you his number. At my words, Julian instinctively clutched his nose and practically ran away. I couldn't help but laugh out loud watching him retreat. But Catherine planted herself in front of me again, her eyes boring into mine. You just wait, Cole. As soon as I secure my inheritance, I will get you back. I looked up at the sky. The sun hasn't even set yet, and you're already dreaming? She didn't seem to care what I said. She bit her lip. Those 1,820 sketches, I looked at all of them. I know you have feelings for me. I know you love me. It was 1,825. I corrected her, my voice flat. And you're right. I poured all of my love into those 1,825 sketches. But you're not worthy. Those were the last 3 words I ever said to Catherine Pierce, the same 3 words she had once said to me. After that, I never saw her again, and she never tried to contact me again. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Until one day, it was the first day of my honeymoon with Chloe. The hotel TV was playing the daily news. Heir to Pierce Industries in jeopardy? Eldest daughter, returned after a 5-year absence, was poised to take over, only to be diagnosed with a malignant disease. Sources suggest the illness may be linked to the heir of the Vance family fortune. I couldn't help but laugh. It made sense. A guy like Julian, who looked and acted so sleazy, getting sick wasn't exactly a surprise. What's so funny? Chloe's voice came from beside me. I turned off the TV. I'm on my honeymoon. Of course I'm happy. But Chloe's smile was even brighter than mine. She bounced over and jumped into my arms. Honey, I've got something that will make you even happier. In her hand was a small plastic stick. In the middle of it, 2 dark pink lines were waving hello to me.